acutely aware of the responsibility that my generation has to make the world a better place for the generations that come after us. And as I stand here today as your host for Tenun Fashion Week, I declare my resolve to make the world a better place. In the next series of collections, I can do just that. Good evening, everyone. Selamat petang, retrai susdai, magandang gabi sa lahat, sawadi tonyen, selamat malam. Welcome back to Tenun Fashion Week, and it is Meka Batubara Weaving Community by Rumah Rakuji, Indonesia. Please do remember to submit your votes for your favorite labels, and the label with the most votes will win the People's Choice Awards. The winner will receive 5,000 ringgit and 6 kilograms of tencel yarns, which is sponsored by PT Lakumas of Indonesia. Now, before we get into this evening's event, please welcome Mr. Lee Yoon-young, the Director of Community Affairs at the ASEAN Secretariat, to give his opening address.
Dato Sri Nancy Sukri, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia. Tan Sri Dato Sri Zamzam Zainramli, Muhammad Ishaq, Chairman of Maybank Group. Dr. Surapi Ranjanabong, Honorary Chairperson of APADA. Excellencies and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. It is my pleasure to be part of this auspicious Tenun Digital Fashion Week held under Maybank Women Eco Weaver Program, jointly organized by the Maybank Foundation, Tanoti House Malaysia, together with the ASEAN Handicraft Promotion and Development Association. Both Maybank Foundation and ASEAN Handicraft Promotion and Development Association, APADA, are ASEAN accredited entities. As Director for Community Affairs in ASEAN Secretariat, I am absolutely proud to witness such joint efforts and promotion to showcase the region's shared culture and heritage. It is my aim to have more of such cooperation between ASEAN entities replicated. Since its launch in 2016, the Maybank Women Eco Weaver Program has uplifted the lives of many women folks in this region. The ASEAN Secretariat has offered its support to its program since 2017, as we included the women eco-weavers in the celebration of ASEAN 50th anniversary on 8th of August that year. The ASEAN Secretariat recognizes the program's contribution to the concerted efforts to provide financial inclusion for women. In this regard, I laud Maybank's Foundation firm's effort in supporting the regional weaving communities. Through these programs, women weavers are able to build a better future for themselves, given their access to training, capacity building, and microfinance. It is perhaps inevitable that as ASEAN prospers, handloom, once thriving in every homes and villages, will be gradually forgotten by many, with the populations especially the younger generations seeking more lucrative economic returns for a hard day's work. This is why, besides the ASEAN Secretariat, the ASEAN Foundation, which is another Jakarta-based sister institution, has been cultivating and multiplying stories of these women folks to a greater audience and promoting this program to a wider circle of awareness. Personally, I'm glad to see initiatives like Tenun Fashion Week to sustain such regional art, culture, and heritage and elevate the ASEAN weavers' voices to the international scene. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time Southeast Asians hand-woven textiles converge on a single platform, packaged in a form of digital fashions presentation. The Tenun Fashion Week is a wonderful induction as you witness the exciting possibility of what the regional hand weave have to offer. This digital event seeks to define their relevance by exploring their potential in today's fashion. The Tenun Fashion Week also aligns with the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Vision 2025 through its commitment to promote the regional strategic plan on culture and arts by, among others, facilitating intercultural contact and collaboration, engendering a sense of ownership for the cultural heritage of ASEAN, and leveraging on culture for inclusive and sustainable development. On that note, I wish the Tenun Fashion Week a great success, and I trust that everybody will enjoy the show. Thank you.
As a young person, I'm acutely aware of the responsibility that my generation has to make the world a better place for the generations that come after us. And as I stand here today as your host for Tenun Fashion Week, I declare my resolve to make the world a better place. In the next series of collections, I can do just that because I feel that they are designed perfectly for my generation. They are hand weaves that are designed to be trendy and in vogue. Enjoy!
majority live in the remote area, far from modern life and facilities, and even difficult to reach, which also I have seen a degradation of their woven because of this location, which I feel that I should prompt to support them, and how to their product is getting better in terms of the conservation traditional textile by sometimes by resurrection, or some of which have been degraded because of the situation economically or something else. And I also support them to develop their textile.
Ulap Doyo fashion, the pride and product of Indonesia. Hidden in the deep hinterland of Borneo, cradled by Dayak Benua culture, Rumah Rakuji is resurrecting Ulap Doyo, the original textile developed decades ago from natural fiber of Curculigo latifolia into fashionable wear. Now, MET, the Indonesian famous designer of Ulap Doyo fashion, is knocking the doors of Spring and Summer Fashion World 2022 with its natural fiber and natural dye spreading fresh, natural look to the fashion industry.
Sampai kuma may bingayu kadagiti daduma nga tattao ay ay hinsina aliduma papigsa Sipugaw, tawanan ni Pigsan, ni Men, Sulibao, Montanosa, Benguet, Ifugao, Lingga, Abra, Baguio, Apayao, Selesai mangibugaw, selesai mangibugaw. Menggang sa takuya, mensala, sa papigsaan na kultura, datakot ipasas na nayungong tawa na tundi, ikas kasingda, kultura, tako papigsan tako, tapno maunus nan ilit ako, laiden taguan, ibingayo, inted kamunyan, datakot aywanan, iminim na isbara, sapuan, sibae, kultura, obobo, binadang tako, kakasing mangilang isnat buong ay mangipamuya isnat kultura.
Among many different techniques in hand weaving textiles, I appreciate matmi the most, and it is also known as ikat in other countries. Personally, I just cannot help but to keep adding them to my collection for the past 50 years.
am wearing Tanoti's Aurora dress, and if you recognize it, it's because they showed it in the video earlier. This entire outfit was woven following the outfit's pattern block. Simply genius, right? The technique that Tanoti uses is traditional songket weaving, which looks very different from the traditional songket outfits. There is also such a great breadth of diversity in Southeast Asian textiles, from the simple to the very complex. And in this next segment, we explore the market for Southeast Asian textiles. Is there room for handwoven textiles of such great diversity? There is so much contention on whether the woven cloth should be less or should be more. And in this next segment, we bring the debate to Tenun Fashion Week. And you can also join in the debate if you're watching from Facebook. You can comment in the chat box.
And there's a lot of issues I feel when it comes to hand-woven cloth because of how it's made and where it comes from. A lot of, well, I'm going to say 90% of hand-woven or handicraft are made by people who are marginalized, especially women. So it's hard to enter that industry without the potential to exploit them. So that's something that, at least in my work, that we try to balance out on how to balance, I guess, economic independence and also economic development for these women, but not at the expense of their own freedom and also themselves. And there's also a fear of the commodification of culture because a lot of these cloths can be considered sacred and not just, beautiful patterns. They're sacred, they're used in customs and rites by these people and still do. And even myself, like I just recently got married and I used these cloths myself. My parents gave me these cloths as a hope and prayers and things. So I understand deeply how it feels to us when we see something as sacred as that just used to make a pretty dress. I feel like it can be done, but in a very responsible way where you consider all aspects, whether it from economic sense, social, and also cultural sense.
Welcome to the Tenun Fashion Week. I am the moderator for the session titled The Woven Cloth, Less or More. My name is Lindy Joubert. I'm an academic in architecture at the University of Melbourne, Australia. I'm an advisor and board member of the World Craft Council Asia Pacific region, and I'm founding director of the UNESCO Observatory, Multidisciplinary Research in the Arts. I'm also president of the Pacific Arts Association, and I'm currently preparing 6 books on educating in the crafts for Springer, an academic publisher. I'm also an academic artist. So I'm delighted to be able to introduce 3 wonderfully interesting panelists who will speak about their respective lives involved in textiles. From the rich and exquisite woven fabric for the elite in Thailand, to the local textiles of Indonesia woven by local craft and artisans, demonstrating the skill of their forebears, to the perspective of a Spanish trend reporter and what is the latest in textiles for a variety of fields, from fashion to the home. So it is with great pleasure I introduce 3 dynamic people for the Tenun Fashion Week. Their work strikes a positive impact on achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Through the skill of their textile crafts, they influence culture and community to find satisfying and enriching employment for not only themselves, but for their families and their communities. Their textile crafts also build the economies on large and small scales of their respective countries. The textile crafts are a major force in cultural economics, sustainable development, ingenuity, and creativity, and most importantly, for new ideas. The crafts overall are a cohesive force for well-being, overcoming mindless consumption and retaining the traditions and values that determine who we are as individuals and as creative nations. Today, I'm about to introduce Mr. Michai from Thailand. He is a national awardee for his textile designs, his weaving community, and his center at Ban Kampung, Ubon Ratchathani, an important center for Thai traditional regional textiles. Ban Kampung's exquisite silk brocades combine supplementary gold and silver threads with the mudmi ikat technique. His clientele include royalty and Thai high society. Thank you. The second person I'm going to introduce is Mrs. Pinky Sudirman from Indonesia, pioneering director of Alun Alun Indonesia, biggest and best department store for Indonesian textiles in Market Square. She engages local designers and the crafts of all sorts. Under her creative direction, many innovative designs work in collaboration with textile and craft artists and are showcased to urban buyers in Jakarta and tourism. The third speaker is from Spain. Marcela Echevarria, I'm sorry, Marcela, is an author and writer for several renowned journals and magazines in Europe and the USA. Marcela is at the forefront of trend forecasting for interior lifestyle and fashion and how we're going to progress into the future. Her current interest is the promotion of the Sang Yun Sha tea silk or mud silk, which is especially made in Guangdong. China reflects an understated elegance reserved for the social elite and nobility of China. Now, I'm going to ask each person some questions, and Michai, the first question I'm going to ask you, please, is would you please introduce Ban Kampung? So please introduce Ban
Thank you,
Kampung.
Ridley. Good afternoon from Thailand. I'm the founder of Ban Kampung, and when I was young, I learned weaving from my grandmother. Anyway, Kampung is my mother's name, and then I borrowed her name to establish the new brand for our product. And anyway, we only weave only a few weavers in our place, and then when I was 20, then I was selected and awarded as the teen award about the profession in Thailand. So those days I practiced and I learned how to weave from my grandmother. She passed me many techniques of weaving, also dyeing from natural, such as the yellow, green, and from black color. Anyway, when I studied in the Bangkok, and then I know many people in high society in Bangkok, and then I presented my grandmother's textile, and then for longer, and then many of them said that it's still the same. So why don't you tell your grandmother to create new collection for themselves? So that I have to play my role by I have to design about my own design to simplify and to make create a modernized color such as pastel color instead of the very traditional, very dark color. Because in Thailand we prefer the for lucky 5 colors, such as a yellow consists of yellow, white, and gems of green and red, and also yellow is to representing the gold color. And anyway, after that, after Thailand, Queen Sirikit helped the people in Isan. I mean, this area, my hometown as well, we call Isan people. And then we inherited the philosophy of weaving, such as from Buddhism, and also many influences, or maybe for domestic and from foreigner. And then I can create many new style of textile to the society. And anyway, I'm still young, and then the people look at me, then they
We have to hurry.
feel very interesting. And when I was about 20, and then I designed the new design, because normally we have to inherit it, even we have to follow the design like this, and this is own traditional style for shoulder cloth. And then for our race have to wear such thing. So for me, myself, I served this, maybe not our society, but I have to serve own, even in Bangkok and another part of Thailand, even the foreigners. So that's why it's become very interesting. And then I founded Kampun brand in my original place, not Ban Kampun now, but it's about 40 years ago. And anyway, during I work for Thai Airways, I learned from the world, and then I travel a lot, and then I've seen from museums, such as many museums in the world, and then I learned, and then I try to make a new thing, combining such as a tapestry from Chinese textile. Because my father, he came from China, so I try to mix something from my father, mixed with my mother. Is
And do you pass on these skills to others? Do you train many other weavers, Michai? Do you train?
Yes, in the beginning, about 15 people. Yeah.
15 people. Good. And is there a waiting list?
Yes, about 15 people, because and the waiting list, I think maybe it's a lot of people waiting for my textile. Yeah. So many people say that Kampun not sell in the shop, but sell on the loom, because they have to wait. Maybe I have to know what they like, and the style, and also I know what I like to make for her, for them. And
Thank
then
you.
I think, yeah.
We have to finish now, Michai, because each person only has 5
thank
minutes.
you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry there's not enough time. So now I'm asking Pinky. Thank you, Michai. Now we move to Pinky. I have some questions for you, Pinky.
Okay. Good. Hello. Hello,
So,
everyone.
in your alun-alun, Indonesia, Market Square, has this changed over the years?
Well, first of all, perhaps I have to tell you a little background about alun-alun, Indonesia. It is basically a modern retail department store featuring all the best of Indonesia. That was our task at the beginning. But we had to find a brand, and we did a project name, and it was called Alun-Alun because it's a city square, and in the public square, there are existing in all the cities in Indonesia. So we thought that's a good meeting place. So it's where people, family, business, small food stalls are all congregate during the weekend or festival. So we thought that's a good way to have the meeting of the trade and the crafters and the artisans. And so we did to try to find a a very catchy how do you call it, baseline for Alun-Alun Indonesia as a brand. So we came up with an idea of inspiring innovations. Why? Because we want to take the richness of our heritage, whether it's weaving, carving, batik, but to the next level. And we are focusing the product to be aspiring, or will be able to then accommodate the taste of the urban consumers. And so we had to make it to meet customers. So that is our task. And so we made the brand Alun-Alun Indonesia, inspiring innovations. And basically, we feature everything, and we try to accommodate the five senses. So it's the hearing, the seeing, the taste, and the feeling, and also the taste, of course, is the food, and also the touch. So we try to feature many things, but as the topic of today is about weaving, we try to feature the special weavers from the archipelago. And of course, weavers come from the most simple to the very elaborate, like what Mecha is doing, from the elaborate brocade with gold threads and all. So the most simple one, of course, is the basic weaving from whatever found material, whether it's the cotton, hand spun cotton, or whether it's a silk, hand spun silk, or it's banana fiber or pineapple fiber. So whatever can be woven, it is woven. And so in we talk about we come from Sumatra, Java, Bali, and all the Lesser Sunda Islands, even also in Kalimantan, is Sarawak. We have many different, also in Sulawesi, of course, we have many different type of weaving traditions. So the most simple one is the normal loom, the hand strap loom, and then of course it graduates to the next, which is using the non-machine weaving, textile weaving, how do you call it, apparatus. So it's just from wood. Normally you find that in Bali, or you find that in Sumatra as well, and also in Java, and also many parts of Sulawesi as well. But the one that is the world famous is, of course, is the ikat weaving. So from all this traditional textile, we try to make it also be suitable for the modern living. So we work together with fashion designers, of course. And for instance, I give you an example of very simple weaving from cotton, hand woven in a simple loom, is the lurik from Yogyakarta, Central Java. So this is lurik, and then in the hand of a designer, it can become a jacket combined with a batik in the back. So and
Pinky, I have two quick questions for you, please. Can I ask two quick questions, Pinky? Are there many endangered textiles in Indonesia, and how do you cope in COVID time?
The endangered textile is the one that's gringsing, which is the very rare double ikat weaving in Tenganan, which is east of Bali. In a way, it's endangered because it's very difficult to produce, and thankfully that there is now still a sustainable community because of their very strong tradition. They still need this double ikat weaving for their religious ceremonies, so it is still maintained, and there are still young weavers. In the other type of the endangered is in areas where the tradition is no longer held. But in the past 10 years, there has been a movement through the National Craft Council to revive many of these weaving. For example, in Sumatra, West Sumatra, there is a weaving, very simple, like the Bugis sarong, but now it is embellished with beautiful songket and then enriched with the bobbin lace edging. So I hope you can see this.
Oh, yes,
So
yes.
it's a very beautiful piece. So from something that is really nearly non-existent in West Sumatra to do a very simple plakat or square check weaving, which was brought by the Buginese traders. Now it's been revived. So we are very happy with the awareness and also appreciation of Indonesian traditional textiles, especially the weaving.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Nikki. I think we have to stick to the time. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
You're
Thank
quite
you.
welcome.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Marcella.
Yes, thank you very much, Lindy. I'm
Oh,
here. Can you see me? Can you hear
I
me?
can see you, yes. So my first question is, from an international perspective, what is
Yes.
the market trend for hand-woven textiles? For the simple, according to the theme of this seminar, less or complex?
Yes.
More? Theme of
Yeah,
Tenun.
I think, right. I think the realm of textile is reaching a new height, similar to what happened when, in the turn of the last century with Annie Alberts and all the Bauhaus and all of that. I'm just coming from Art Basel, where I presented a textile-based collection in an art fair. So I think really people are starting to think about textiles as collectibles and as art pieces. So I think there is a new appreciation for the hand woven, for the work of the hands. And I think this comes also after COVID, when we've been so deprived of touching and of texture. So this is, I think, part of the new trends that are really hitting the market. And I see a new opportunity for the world of textiles.
Ah, very good. And are Southeast Asian textiles visible in the world market?
I think they are starting to be visible. I think there is a great opportunity there. I think there is, they have been visible, but as sort of like manufacturing for brands that want to have their own voice. I think the opportunity arises when textiles from this part of the world are embracing their voice and building their brands and telling their stories, not just being manufacturers for other people's stories. So I think the opportunity lies in the textiles themselves, but in the stories and the brand that is created around them.
Oh, wonderful. Now, can you think of other ways? I mean, with COVID, obviously, it's been an appalling, terrible time, but it also raises new opportunities. What opportunities can arise, and how can visibility be improved for beautiful Southeast Asian textiles?
Well, there are many, yeah, there are many opportunities. I think one of them is that we have embraced the digital. I mean, proof of that is we're all talking from, I don't know, four different areas of the world. So, we've embraced the digital to tell the stories of textiles. However, textiles are something you need to be, touching and feeling. So, the opportunity is really in going backwards to move forward, going backwards to like everything that's made by master artisans, by master craftsmen, where there is the intricacy of so things that are not diluted to reach price point, but that are embraced in their complexity and in their entire beauty, more as art pieces. So it's really both ways. It's the digital as the tool for the storytelling, yet the textile in its own complexity. I don't know if I'm, explaining it clearly, but that's how I think. It's like really a duality of complexity and simplicity in the digital, but complexity in the intricacy of the textile.
Very good, Marcella. Thank you very much. That really brings it all to a close, and within time, I hope. I would really just like to thank everyone very much indeed. But you've all given a very, very comprehensive, very rich, and very internationally diverse idea and perspective on the beautiful textiles of your countries. And I do thank you all very, very much indeed.
Hi, I'm Nancy Shukri, and I'm Malaysia's Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and I support hand-woven textiles. Ever since I was young, I have been completely attracted to the act of weaving. I watched my mother did it, the many small and intricate steps, and the repeated actions on her loom as she makes her fabric. The fabric just grows. I love hand-woven fabrics because it is like the process of creation. Every single thread is touched by the hand, and the artist is allowed freedom to be creative. Each product is its own, perfectly imperfect. Hand-woven textiles are the core of our culture. In the old days, it is how we present ourselves, how we express our identities. We need to support our traditional hand weaves, because without them, an important part of our people will be lost. The hand weaving industry and the larger handicraft industry is a huge cultural exporter. It has the power to feed families, sustain communities, and contribute to the national economy, and there is no reason to ignore the power and potential of the hand-woven textile industry. I love the Sarawak Songket. The depth and dimensions of each line weaved is just incredible. If you look closely enough, the Sarawak Songket tells the story of the weaver. She counts her weaves for each pattern and expresses herself through those delicate patterns. It is so hard to explain, but when you see the Sarawak Songket, you will know what I mean. The Sarawak Songket technique is created by supplementary weft patterns using the hitung sifir, which means each motif of each line has its own sifir, which the weaver chooses to weave. In comparison, the Terengganu Songket is executed using tekat, which is a set thread count, usually tekat 5 or the more refined tekat 3. I love the puak kumbu. This is the fabric of my grandmother's tribe. I feel that each pua has a beautiful story to tell. These stories can only be told by the master weaver, and each time I hear the story of the pua, it is simply mesmerizing. When it comes to the technique of the puak kumbu, it is actually about dreams conceived. The patterns of the pua are put together to transcribe the weaver's dream, and culturally speaking, only selected weavers have the power to dream weave. Such persons are known as Indu Muntang Indu Nang Kabang.
spend a lot of time unfortunately stripping out some of the pattern because the Lao traditional, a lot of it has a lot of pattern and a lot of color. And for the Western market, that's not going to work. As much as that can be a destruction of tradition, I don't think it is. I think that you can be respectful, and I think that you do that by co-creating.
The Maybank Women Eco Weavers Weaving Tales short story competition was held earlier this year, organized by Maybank and the ASEAN Foundation. The competition received 400 submissions and there were 20 winners. I am delighted to have Sheena Gurbakash from Malaysia, who submitted one of the winning weaving tales, to read us her story entitled Kain Lima, Origins Imagined.
Apa khabar? My name is Sheena Gurbakash. I'm delighted to be here at Tenun Fashion Week to talk about my story, Kain Lima, Origins Imagined. I first discovered Kain Lima at the National Textile Museum in Kuala Lumpur. I found myself quite intrigued by the distinctive serpentine pattern. Kain Lima is almost a forgotten art from Kelantan, which is where I was born. Its unique weaving technique is attributed to none other than the legendary Malay queen, Cik Siti Wan Kembang. The traditional art of weaving is almost a spiritual practice, passed down through the generations. Weaving is creative, and at the same time, to weave is to be the guardian of heritage. Weaving itself requires stamina and discipline. A great ruler would need all these qualities to reign well and wisely. Cik Siti Wan Kembang was such a ruler. Her reign was fraught with danger. She was a woman alone, yet she commanded armies and dealt with traders from all over the world. She was under threat, as there were many who would have happily swallowed up her kingdom, but she kept her country at peace for more than 60 years. There are many, many myths about her, including how she and her women were fierce warriors who used magic, including unleashing snakes at their enemies in battle. And I wondered if part of that was also guile, if they had learned to use the clothes they wore as weapons. There were so many what-ifs, and suddenly this story fell into place. And so it begins. The python slithers across the hardwood floor. The monsoon rages late this year, the floods higher than usual, driving her from her home. She has traveled through the rain, up, and now she is here, out of the wet, to this smooth, flat expanse of wood. She stops, senses the air with her tongue. She must find somewhere warm and dark. The python moves slowly toward a corner of the room. Someone has been careless. The door of a cabinet hangs open a crack. The python heaves herself into the dark interior. There, in the darkness, she entwines herself in the stored fabric and settles, safe in the nest she has made on a bed of silk. She lays her eggs. The young queen, Cik Siti Wan Kembang, sits at her loom, her nimble fingers at rest. As long as it rains, her kingdom is safe. No armies will assemble, no war will be declared, but the rain cannot fall forever. She has sent letters and gifts to the emperor in China, begging for his protection, but hears nothing back. She hears the rumors. The Emperor Wan Li sits in the Forbidden City, embroiled in civil war, and cannot protect her. In the west, Malacca has fallen to the Feringhi. To the north sits her enemy, Siam. She is alone. Who will stand with her against the might of Siam? She must find a new pattern, a new strategy to confound her enemies. But how? Where? Weeks later, the monsoon drizzles to an end. Damp cupboards are thrown open to air. a sobbing handmaiden is dragged before the queen. The remnants of the python's nest and the perfectly intact snakeskin, proof of the girl's dereliction of duty. The queen should punish this girl harshly, but she knows that to do so will be an admission that her security is lax, so lax that a python twice her height could set up nest and birth her young in the queen's personal chambers. The queen wonders which of her courtiers will be the first to send word of this weakness north to her enemy. She calls for the snakeskin to be brought to her. It rustles in her fingers, dry and smooth as silk. She studies the precise beauty of the geometric scales, patterns. She prayed for a new pattern. She now knows what she must do. She raises the snakeskin above her head and cries, "Praise be to the Emperor Wan Li. He has sent his emissary, a Naga, to protect us from our enemies. We are under his protection. Let them send word of that to her enemies." The young queen sits at her loom. She will weave this new snakeskin pattern. She will sing incantations as she weaves to infuse it with the power of nagas and serpents. She will transform this silk fabric from her loom into a weapon. She will train her women to fling and fight with it, throwing her enemies into confusion. She will fool her enemies into thinking she is marked by magic, and they will fear her. Her kingdom will be saved. Centuries from now, they will speak of this, of how, when Cik Siti Wan Kembang and her women rode into battle, snakes would unfurl from their bodies to attack their enemies. And so she weaves kain lima. Terima kasih, and thank you for listening to my story.
Indeed, the fabric kain lima is what we Malaysians consider to be the grand dame of woven fabrics. And in this next section of fashion collections, the modern day rendition of kain lima is presented together with other hand-woven textiles garnished with exquisite embellishments.
Hello everybody, I'm John Ang from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I'm a textile collector specializing in Malay textiles. Today I'd like to share with you why I love hand-woven textiles. Here is a beautiful hand-woven songket from Sumatra, and I like it because of its humanistic quality and touch. There's a sense of depth and three-dimensionality to it, similar to this beautiful three-colored Brunei piece. When you compare that with this Pakistani piece that's machine woven, you can see how mechanical and plastic looking this is as compared to the hand-woven pieces. And this is the main reason why I love hand-woven textiles. Thank you.
Kate. I'm the owner of Sky Weavers Philippines, and we work with around 30 weavers from the Ifugao indigenous community to come up with weaves that can be used for modern fashion. So our target would be creating weaves that are wearable, whether on the streets or in the office, or something accessories or home items. There's always new innovations and ideas and how we can use them. But the good thing about weaving is that I think it's a form of art. And the people behind the art pieces always really adapt to the changes of the happening around us.
and it's this optical illusion when they create weaves, and they're very abstract. At the same time, Aljamela is very inspired by nature, taking inspiration from flowers and ferns, which is pako, which is something of a food that we eat. Okay, and for me, this pattern speaks so well about the time that we're experiencing right now. Um, the Binakol fabric from N.R. Daniels is actually a fabric that is inspired, or they say, scholars say, that the story behind it is that the optical illusion pattern sorts of ward off evil spirits and protect the people who use it. So initially, they say, the scholar said that it was used as sails, so that when they sail, they're protected from bad weather. So it actually represents whirlwind. So we call it kusikos. And I've been always inspired by this fabric, and I'm very lucky to have been able to use it again for this collection.
What do you think, everyone? Were you spurred by today's stories and discussions? Because I sure was. And what was your favorite collection? Because you can vote for your favorite label online. Voting closes on 2021, and the winners will be announced in December. Now, tonight's program is drawing to a close, but please tune in for tomorrow, where we will bring the show to a live audience halfway through. I say goodnight to you now of what's to come.